Eran Thomson, can you please come into the Cuppa of Life Cafe, buddy, and give everyone a welcome? How are you, mates?
Good morning, Cookie. Hi, thanks for having me here.
Pleasure. Mate, I'm really excited to have you in, buddy. We've known each other for a while back in the old media days where you were helping us in our business around creative, etc. So I'm glad you're here. Like I said at the start, mate, one of our biggest pillars around how we try and help people within the Cuppa of Life Cafe and the corporates that are joining us, etc., and their employees is around productivity and communication. And when I've started to hear and listen about what you've been doing with improvisation and the Laugh Academy in particular as well, I wanted to get you in, buddy, to share your journey, your thoughts, and how we can actually improve our own relationships and communication together. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. This is for Jill.
Right. What is it? What's on there? We are happy to serve you. We need that cup. We need it.
This is for anyone who's ever been to New York. This cup has special significance. It's for some reason for decades it was the only cup you ever got coffee, takeaway coffee, in, no matter where you were in the city. It came in that cup.
Mate, amazing. Now, we're going to talk about your journey in a second. I just want to acknowledge that I do have a new barista shirt on, people. Can you see this? Yeah. The Virtual Cafe. We do have merchandise hat now. Well, we do have a hat. It's not merchandise. I'm not going to wear that, though. I'll look a little bit geeky. So I'm either going to wear the hat or the shirt, just letting people know that. Now, Eran, obviously you're not from Oz, but tell us where your background is and how you got to Australia.
Yeah, so I'm a Seppo. I came here almost 20 years ago now. I'm originally from San Francisco, but I moved here from New York City. And the journey from New York City to Bondi Beach was basically instigated in part by September 11th. The economy, I was in Manhattan when that happened, and the economy obviously took a big downturn after that event. And, working in the creative industry and advertising and marketing as a creative director, those marketing budgets are often the first thing to get cut when the economy starts to decline. I sort of saw the writing on the wall. So I convinced my girlfriend at the time to quit her job, and we both decided to go on a world tour for 7 months. And the plan was only to spend 3 months in Sydney. But like many an expat, we got stuck and fell in love with the lifestyle, and here we are.
Well, I'm glad you're here, mate. I'm glad you're here. The other thing about your journey and your history is I didn't know this, actually, by the way. You also survived cancer. When did this happen? When was this?
Yeah, just last week. I'm over it now. No. So I was a young adult cancer survivor. I was, diagnosed in my 20s. And with chronic myelogenous leukemia, which is normally that's a disease that afflicts young children.
Right.
And I got it as a young adult, and it was, it's obviously very challenging diagnosis, but I was super lucky. My whole recovery has been super lucky in that one of the things that has happened in the world of medicine, like if you think your iPhone or your computer goes out of date or becomes obsolete quickly, wait until you look at what happens in the medical world. Like stuff there is just happening at an even much more accelerated pace. And so when I got diagnosed, I quickly became my own expert in the disease and trying to learn as much as I could about the recovery. And I discovered that there was a trial of a new drug. And to make a very long story short, I was one of the first people in the world to get that drug after it was FDA approved. Right. And what makes it so cool and so unique is it was the very first drug of its kind that is what they call a molecularly targeted therapy. So most of the times when you have a cancer, this stereotypical treatment is some sort of chemo, and that's like where they blast the whole body with, they kill everything to kill the bad, but they kill plenty of good too. And with molecularly targeted therapies, they're able to go in at a genetic level and say, oh, well, this specific ailment is caused by a translocation of these two strands of DNA. And we'll make a drug that makes when A and C should go together, but instead it's trying to go to D, we make a drug that tells A to go back to C. So they're preventing the disease it's at the origin of the disease. So what that means is that there's very few side effects and very high efficacy. And I became one of the first people to get on this drug. And I was also one of the first people, if not the first person, to come off it and maintain a complete remission. And I actually became the literal poster child for the pharmaceutical company. Yeah, if you go back and you look through some old New Yorker magazines, you'll see pictures of me holding a surfboard on the beach in a Novartis ad.
Just a question about that. So you said you're in your 20s. You know, most people, when they have a big thing happen in their life, like a traumatic experience where you're challenged and it's, you know, it is life or death in some aspects. If it's not treated, you're gone. But like, what did you get out of that experience itself? That did anything change your course of direction of thought?
Yeah, so much. I mean, you can't have an experience like that and not be impacted in some small way. And, you know, I think you can be impacted in a very big, powerful way too. It sort of depends on your own level of emotional intelligence and personal development, and, you know, a willingness to kind of look at yourself. So for me, you know, obviously I think the dance that anyone who's survived a disease like that has is you're fighting these two polar extremes. One is live in the moment, be now. All that matters is this moment, right? Versus the practical realities of being a human, which is life can be long, and if it is, you need to be prepared and you need to be thinking ahead and planning. And so that's one of the big lessons for me, was like getting comfortable with that dance.
Yeah. Mate, let's get into, because we want to spend most of this session, because we've got a hardcore time that we're going to finish today. I really want to start talking about what you're doing now and the journey into what you've been doing. So you're a creative director, media and advertising. That also comes with a lot of pressure and ups and down moments as well. You then launched your own business, which was around comedy and laugh. How did that all come about, from leaving the creative director days to now doing something around what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so the journey for me was coming out of advertising agencies where creativity and writing and, you know, production and development is a key part of what I was doing every day. I sort of had a period of time in my career where I transitioned out of ad land and more into the entertainment space. So I was working on feature films and television development and that kind of stuff. And I was in LA for about 3 months writing a screenplay for a director there. And while I was there, I decided to take an improv comedy class at a place called the Second City, which is one of the most famous and well-known schools in the world. And I was one of those people that I thought, like, I'm funny, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to be awesome at improv, I'm going to rule improv. And what I quickly realized is that everything that most people think about improv is wrong. And one of the most common myths is that improv is about trying to be funny. And it really isn't. It's about learning to be present, learning to be aware, learning to respond in the moment to what's just been said, to react, to adapt, to communicate, to listen. And this stuff for me, you know, what I kind of loosely call soft skills, was so kind of life-changing and powerful that when I came back from LA, I wanted to continue that journey and keep exploring that craft or art form, and to try and continue to get better at those particular skills. So it was never for me really about getting on stage and being funny at that point. It was really about just trying to become a better human. And when I came back, I realized that there was nobody here offering the level of training that I had experienced in LA. And so very selfishly, very naively, and with way too much optimism, I started flying people out from Los Angeles who I'd met there to do weekend workshops in Sydney and Melbourne. And as a way of underwriting that, because I saw the value of these skills, you know, in a business context rather than a comedic context, I was able to sell a corporate workshop, which sort of offset some of the cost of doing that. And so that sort of began the journey. And then, what happened is, after that 11 days, 2 weekends, a weekend in Sydney, weekend in Melbourne, and then a week in the middle, I decided, I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is way too much work. I went backwards financially. It's cheaper for me just to go back to LA and take another class if that's what I decide I want to do. But then I like to say something horribly magical happened. And two things. The first thing is that I overheard 2 women who didn't know I was in the room behind them talking about their experience and how much it had impacted them personally, and how much they felt like they were able to take away the learnings, and they were immediately excited about how they could apply them in their personal and professional life. And, you know, and after a whole career in advertising, I was like, oh my God, if I can bring this kind of level of good into the world, I can't look away from that. So then as I was pondering that, the second thing that happened was there was a guy also from New York who has said, hey, I just moved to Sydney. I used to teach improv. If you want to run an 8-week level 1 class, maybe we can get some people to come along. I was like, let's go for it. And of course, at the end of that class, everyone was like, when's level 2? I was like, oh no, now what? So fast forward 9 years, and Laugh Masters Academy has, up until COVID, we had locations in Parramatta, Surrey Hills, and North Melbourne. And of course, we have the corporate training side of our business, which is called PowerProv. So it's been a really interesting and exciting journey.
I'm very keen to hear if anyone's done any sort of improvisation training in their workplace right now. In the chat room, just say yes or no. I just want to see a wave of if anyone has ever created any sort of improv. Now, mate, the benefits of improv in yourself and your business, what are some of those benefits of why improvisation and where it can improve?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that we see in a corporate context is the fundamentals of improvisation endow teams with the skills they need to communicate better, to collaborate better, and obviously improve camaraderie amongst the peer group. And some of the specifics around that originate in particular from what we call the ensemble philosophy. And the ensemble philosophy, the ensemble mindset, is basically a tacit agreement between everyone involved that we all agree to have each other's backs, right? To support each other's ideas, actions, choices, decisions, and make each other look good. I know if I make you look good, we look good. That is attractive to an audience, but it's also attractive to a client or a room full of people that you're pitching to or presenting to. And it also means that you create an environment where failure can be accepted and embraced as the opportunity for learning and growth that it is. Right? So if I walk into a room and I know, trust, believe, and accept that everyone there has my back and is going to make me look good, first of all, who doesn't want to walk into an office every day and feel that, right? That's awesome. Yeah. And then that, like, okay, I got an idea. It may be crazy. It may not work. It may not be right. It may be the catalyst to take us to the thing that is less crazy, but right and appropriate and on budget that we can achieve. But I won't have the courage to share that first crazy thought unless I know that my team will welcome that and appreciate and understand that we're in this together to try and make something great. So that's a big piece of what we teach at PowerProv.
And most people, if they hear that word sort of improv and that type of element, whether you're an extrovert or mainly an introvert, how do you help people break the ice when doing improv? Like, is there a technique that you utilize to get the room going?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the things that we do in our classes at Laugh Masters Academy and in our corporate training workshops at PowerProv, we start every workshop or class with physical exercises, right? So that kind of gets the energy up, it oxygenates the blood, right? A well-oxygenated brain is a faster thinking, quicker thinking brain. And also the physicality gets people into their bodies and into the room and into the space. And also because we're doing it together, we're just a simple act of doing some physical exercise together starts to coalesce the group and subtly start to form that ensemble mindset. So that's how we start. And that's, yeah. And then sorry, to answer the rest of your question. So in terms of like bringing shy people or more of the introverts into the conversation, again, that comes from right out of that ensemble mindset. Once you have that built and instilled, it becomes instinctive to, you've created a space for them where they feel welcome and wanted, and their opinions can be shared without judgment or fear or anxiety. But also the other team members, we know who those people are, right? And we can specifically and intentionally create opportunities for those people to share and participate and get involved. And one of the things that, I think we all probably know is that it's often the shy, quiet, silent types that have the most interesting things to say because they're great observers, right? They clock everything, right? In behavioral science, we talk about auditing versus editing, right? So editing is that voice in your head that's like, should I say this? Is this a good idea? If I say it and no one likes it, will I look stupid? I need to ask for a raise next month. And if I throw out this bad idea, will I probably diminish my chances of getting a raise? Oh, maybe I'll just keep my mouth shut, right? Versus auditing, which is just the kind of the idea that you can stay present, stay aware, pay attention, listen actively, and respond. And those introverted people are great auditors. And that's the reason why you want to create space for them, because they see and understand things in a whole different way.
I love that, mate. One of the things that we've just seen a couple of comments, Jane said, I've worked with some toxic people or agencies where it seems everyone is looking to blame others rather than support the ultimate goals. And if improv can break down those barriers, but you know, sometimes those barriers, especially like in brainstorming or when you're trying to ideate, you get the block, right? You get the, no, that won't work. No, that's too much budget. No, blah, blah, blah. What's your comment to having a great improv session when you have those people there that block those comments and stop the ideation flow?
Yeah, so I mean, ideation is such an important part of, you know, business success, right? You're always iterating, always innovating and doing new things. And so there's two parts to this answer. The first part is probably yes and, which is if those two words together resonate with anybody or you've heard them before, they are in many ways the cornerstone of improv. And it's a great tool for innovation and ideation. And I'll come back to what I mean by that in a second. But within the context of what we call, again, behavioral science, divergent thinking and convergent thinking, right? And the challenge and the problem that most of us have when we're in an environment where we're trying to share an idea or trying to innovate or ideate and people are blocking or saying, nah, that won't work. What's happening there is we're simultaneously doing divergent thinking, which is going big, like what are all the things we might come up with here, and convergent thinking at the same time, which is how do we go small, whittle down, find the right appropriate thing. So the first part of the solution there is to change the way you innovate and to change the way you ideate. And that is to break those two things apart. So the first piece is you go, okay, for the next 2 days, 15 minutes, whatever it is, we agree that as a group, we have this problem, we're trying to solve it. Let's all agree that we're going to just throw every single idea on the wall. We're not going to worry about if it's on budget. We're not going to worry about if it's achievable. We're not going to worry about if it's on brand. We're not going to worry about any of that. We're just going to go and trust, believe, and accept that one idea will lead to another, will lead to another, will lead to another. And we'll do that for a finite period of time. And then once we've all shared and kind of run out of steam, we can switch to convergent thinking, which is to go, okay, great. We've got all these amazing ideas. These ones are on budget, so let's look at those first. Of those, these are the most creative and innovative. This one's the most on brand. You can start to whittle it down. But when you do that process at the same time, you can't get anywhere. And you also create an environment like the first time someone in that room throws an idea out and another person goes, oh, that'll never work. What do you think happens to the next person with an idea?
Yeah, the dynamic changes. People don't feel like it's open to be able to communicate their ideas. It's blocks it.
Exactly. Totally blocks it. So when you're coming back to yes and, so when you're doing that divergent piece, one of the great tools is yes and. And in really briefly to try and explain for your listeners what that means is the yes is about affirming the reality, and the and is about building on that. So, you know, if you say, and it also, by the way, one of the things people always ask me is if you're trying to teach me to say yes and start conversations with yes and, does that mean when can I say no? Right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that you can play with it so that the yes is acknowledgement and then the and is adding new information. Right. So for example, like if you say, I like blue, right? And I say, well, I like red. Right. Well, now we're having an argument about blue and red and which is better. Right. Yeah, and people already know I like red. So someone who wants to suggest green isn't going to do it. Right. But if you say, I like blue, and I go, yes, and red looks awesome on Santa, I haven't said that blue is bad. I haven't denied your truth or your idea. It's still there. It still exists as a concept. I've just gone, yes, you like blue. And I think red's awesome on Santa. And then your response could be, yes, and it's the Smurfs Christmas party. And I'd be like, yes, blue makes sense, right? So, but you give yourself permission to go on this journey with yes and that's one of my favorite things about it. And like, again, I think people who work in creative industries probably instinctively do this without realizing it. One idea leads to another idea, to another idea. But when you're in a brainstorming session, if someone goes, hey, what if we made Cuppa of Life shirts? Yes, and we can make hats too. Yes, and special mugs. Yes, and we could hire a car and paint it black and put the logo on the car. Yes, and we could build our own cafe in the real world. Yes, and you can see how it just goes and goes and goes. And of course, some of the things are not going to be achievable or possible.
No.
Where you land might be, and that's the whole thing: is giving yourself permission to go on that journey of discovery.
The thing that's really sticking out to me is just making sure that you stay in flow, right? Because that's if everyone's in flow and it's all directing somewhere, something's going to land for people. If anyone's got any questions for Eran, can you please put it into the chat room now? Because we're going to be around here for another about 4 minutes or so. Have you had any funny stories, mate, around improv? Didn't something happen on stage once?
Well, there's a very funny story about that I like to tell when I'm talking to or explaining to people what I mean by ensemble mindset. And this didn't actually happen to me. It happened to one of our other facilitators, but I love the story so much, I often tell it. And basically the situation was she was in Chicago training there. Chicago, for those of you who don't know, is considered to be sort of like the home of long form improvisation. And so she went back there to train. And as part of her course, at the end of it, they agreed to put on a show. And the theater was designed such that when people went on stage, there was they could go onto stage from the left side of the stage or the right side of the stage. And there was about 10 of them in the group. So they decided that 5 of them would run in from the left, 5 of them would run in from the right, one at a time, and kind of meet in a line at the front of the stage. And if you've ever seen an improv show, that's usually how they start. Everyone stands in a line. They ask for a one-word suggestion from the audience, and then they begin their show. So their plan was run out, alternating one at a time from the left and right, stand in a line. Now, the first guy that runs out, he falls. He trips, he falls, and he does like a horrible face plant, smashes his chin on the stage, and does like the basketball court, like screechy, like, to the front of the stage. And the audience is just like, right? Like, oh God, is he okay? What just happened? So what do you think the rest of his team did?
Everyone else did it.
They all ran out and they fell. And they all fell even bigger and more crazy and bizarre than he did. So that by the time they all got on stage, they were in this big pile and the audience was on their feet clapping and they hadn't even started the show, right? So just by embracing failure, right? Yeah. Seeing it as an opportunity to react, to adapt to this new information, which is, you have a plan, which is we're going to come out one by one and get in a line. But then new information comes in, which is he fell. How do we make him look good so that we all look good and make him not feel bad for what he's probably on stage going, oh my God, this ruined the show, right? And so all of a sudden they completely changed that whole dynamic and won the audience over, like I said, before they'd even started the show. So for me, that is just a super powerful example of what can happen when you have a team full of people who are committed to the idea that together we are stronger, who believe in we, not me.
You know what? I think this is so great for business, I think leadership teams need to go through this as well to galvanize each other, to be on the same flow. I've just launched on the site now, or just before, about PowerProv, mate. Your site, your website. So how can people get involved with you? Besides coming through us here at Cuppa, but what other ways can people get involved with you?
Yeah, so I mean, the easiest way to see the different things I'm playing around with is on my personal website, which is eranthomson.com, ERANTHOMSON, no P, I'm a dry Thompson. And yeah, I'm links to PowerProv, Laugh Masters Academy, and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you can share with everybody outside of this.
Yeah, we will. We send out a takeaway document that we'll send out afterwards with all the appropriate links as well. One of the things that popped up was from Jane. She's asked, have you ever used Edward de Bono's 6 colored hats as a technique? Black hats being the blockers. Have you ever heard of that?
I've seen that. We both have black hats. We might need to rethink that. Yeah, I'm familiar with Edward de Bono. He's great. I love his books. We don't directly incorporate his specific tools into our training, but there would be similarities in terms of how we think about team structure and roles and behaviors.
So good. Mate, we're going to leave it there today. But what we've got is we've got one challenge for you today. We want you to say yes and all day. Just try it. See how it goes. Instead of trying to block conversations or anything, catch yourself and add value. Anything else to add to people today, mate, before you head off?
Yeah, I think that's a great challenge. I would just to reframe it slightly. Try and start every sentence of every conversation with those words. Just whatever anyone says to you, just as an experiment, see what happens, and report back. It'd be interesting to hear from you how it goes. It's a wonderful. It can be a wonderful eye opener to how a subtle word change can completely change your relationships with people.
Sharon's just said my 8-year-old is going to have a blast with that. Yep. No doubt.
Just remember, you have to give up your truth. When your 8-year-old says, "Can I have ice cream for dinner?" you can say, "Yes, and you'll have to go to the dentist and get your teeth drilled." Is that what you want?
Mate, thank you for joining us, mate. You can head off now. I'm going to close up the room. We're going to play your video at the end as well. So thank you so much for joining us, Eran, this morning. And looking forward to working with you in the future, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Cookie. Thanks, Jill. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.
No problem. Now, everyone else, we have a couple of things to share with you before we go. Next week, we have Commando Steve joining us in the Cuppa of Life Cafe on Tuesday. Last time Commando was in, we had an absolutely blast with him. It's going to be a great session all around mindfulness, fitness, and health. So please make sure that you join us. Forward this to your team. Get them involved as well. 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday. Please make sure you check out that link. Also, today, I'm just going to finish that one now. Hopefully, you've clicked on it. Also, today, we're trying out a new software or app called Clubhouse. Clubhouse, if you don't know what it is an audio app only. So it's sort of like a radio station where you can join free of charge. You just have to download the Clubhouse app. And we're going to be hosting a room there today all around facing your fears and anxieties. It's going to be a group chat, an open chat, where you can come up on stage with us and just have a conversation with us. Otherwise, you can just listen as well. To join us, you have to download the Clubhouse app. We're just trialing it ourselves over the next few weeks because it is scaling globally, very much so at the moment. So we see our role there as well. You have to download the Clubhouse app, request to enter. You have to wait to be accepted, and then follow me, Luke Cook, or Jill Kovitz. My little handle's at Chats with Cookie. But love to see you in there. It is a panel-based forum that we're going to be launching. We're just going to test it out and see how we go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. To finish off today, I'm going to play Eran's video. So stick around and watch it for the Laugh Masters Academy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll catch you soon. We'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.
Improv is active listening, hearing what they're saying and responding to that last thing said, rather than what happens quite often in life where one person is talking and we're just thinking of the next thing that we're going to say.
I think the thing that surprised me the most was actually how easy it is.
It's a nice unstructured adult playtime, which I think everyone can use these days. The skills I learned and the exercises we did, I mean, it felt so good. It felt so natural. I wasn't scared. I was initially very worried about being afraid of this.
But I actually felt really comfortable and really got into it. And I thought, actually, I did a really good job with that.
Within 10 minutes, you're comfortable, you're laughing, and you're realizing that this is something that you need to do, and it's good. It's good for you.
Something I learned from being here was just being comfortable with uncertainty.
To listen to other people better.
I think it's kind of really useful for those sorts of confidence things that you need, and also to be able to think on your feet and be really spontaneous.
One of the principles was the yes and kind of being collaborative and building with other people.
Even if it's not the perfect solution, taking something, running with it, passing it back and forth.
When you start there, when you have that baseline of active listening, it trickles over into every aspect of your life.
Because of my job, it's important to learn how to be collaborative with other people when they've got ideas, know how to nurture them, know how to develop them.
I was very happy that I was able to just let go also physically, because normally I'm quite contained in my job. You know, I don't sort of dance around or do crazy stuff with my body.
Really expands your mind to think differently about existing problems.
I think I will use some of that insight in my next workshops, in my next brainstorming sessions, in my next presentations.
Life Masters Academy helped me be more confident in myself.
To open up. Building empathy and understanding and listening and connecting with people genuinely.
Just to become a more free version of yourself.
Improv is for everybody.
Unless you were born and you've never had any experience in your life, then maybe you would fail, but otherwise everyone can be successful.
It's not just about being funny or being a good improv actor, it's about listening and connecting with people. You can just rock up and sort of explore what fun means to you.
There is no right or wrong or good or bad, it's just, you know, sort of be yourself, and that really is the key to success.
You'll just notice a heightened level of true interaction and interest in one another, and people will appreciate you more because of that.
Everyone should do this. I think just on a human level.
Laugh Masters in 3 words.
A fantastic experience.
Engaging, moreish.
Challenging.
Rewarding. Educational.
Interesting.
Playful.
Fantastic.
Surprising.
Fun.
Fun.
The skills and the fun that we have makes it something that we all want to do more often.